Hello, my dear students, our first secondary grade. Today we are going to complete studying the classification of living organisms. And last time we ended up with some plants in the plant kingdom. And we will start by having a revision on what we have started or what we have studied before. We started by studying the modern classification, which includes 5 kingdoms, the Monera, Protista, Fungi, Planta, and Animalia. Kingdom Monera includes all living organisms that are very primitive and represent the simplest form of life. They include all types of bacteria. And we move to Kingdom Protista, which includes unicellular organisms also, but more developed than the organisms in Kingdom Monera. And then we moved to studying Kingdom Fungi, which is characterized by the chlorophyll is not present, so all of them are heterotrophic organisms. They could be parasites or saprophytes. And when we started studying the plant kingdom, we mentioned that all the plants are autotrophic organisms. So we complete the plant kingdom, which included some algae, and these algae live in water. So we moved from water to land, and we studied phylum Bryophyta, which includes the plants live on land but still connected to water or live in damp soil or moist soil. In the last phylum, which is Tracheophyta, the Tracheophyta includes 3 classes. The first class is ferns, and also the fern plants are terrestrial plants, live on land but in muddy soil or in moist soil. Then class Gymnosperms or Gymnospermi, including conifers. And these conifers are trees, or a few of them are shrubs. They do not have flowers, they do not reproduce by flowers, so we call them non-flowering plants. And here in this picture, the most famous example of conifers, that is a pinus plant. The pinus plant carry male and female cones. So the reproduction here is by cones. The male cones produce male gametes, which fall on the female cones to fertilize the ova, and they produce seeds, which are nicked seeds. And the needle shaped leaves are the most significant characteristic in this class. So they are not flowering plants, non-flowering plants. Reproduction here occurs by cones. The last class is Angiosperms or Angiospermi, and these are the flowering plants. Also, they are terrestrial plants, live on land, and they have true stem, true leaves, and true roots. They reproduce by flowers, so they are the most developed group of plants. They reproduce by flowers, and the flowers contain male and female organs. Some of these flowers are hermaphrodite or bisexual, and others are unisexual. Reproduction by flowers, and the flowers after reproduction they are converted into fruits, and these fruits including seeds or enclosing seeds. So the seeds here are present inside the the fruit. So we call them covered seeded plants. But the conifers or gymnosperms, the previous class, include the uncovered seeded plants. They include two groups which are very important, and as we said, the most developed types of plants. They are monocotyledonous plants and dicotyledonous plants. And here in this picture, it shows the parts of the plants, monocotyledonous and dicotyledonous, and we study them by comparing them with each other, comparing the parts of the plants. The first row represents the monocotyledonous plants, which include the plants onion, palm, wheat, and corn. And the lower row represents the dicotyledonous plants, which are including beans, or peas, and cotton. Have a look to the seeds. The seed in the monocotyledonous plant is composed of just one part, as you see here. The monocotyledonous plant includes the seeds, which is composed of one cotyledon, and comparing with the dicotyledonous plant, we can find it is composed of two identical parts, or two identical cotyledons. So one cotyledon for monocotyledonous plants and two cotyledons for dicotyledonous plants. Speaking about the root is fibrous root in case of monocotyledonous plants, and it's a tap root in dicotyledonous plants. So if we examine the root of the onion has fibrous root, as well as the wheat and corn, and in peas or beans or cotton, they are having tap roots. The vascular tissue in monocotyledonous plants, as you see here in the picture, if we make a section in the stem, we can find that the vascular bundles are scattered in the stem, while in the dicotyledonous plants, the vascular bundles are arranged in rings or in a circular fashion. The leaves have parallel veins. We call them parallel venation in case of monocotyledonous plants, and it is pinnate or palmate in case of dicotyledonous plants. Finally, the flowers in each group. The flower in monocotyledonous plant contains the leaves of the flower, which are arranged in whorls, and in each whorl there are 3 leaves, 3 sepals or 3 petals, and so on. 3 or their multiples. So we call the flower is trimerous and their multiples, while in dicotyledonous plants we find 4 leaves or 5 leaves in each whorl, in each circle, and we call them tetramerous or pentamerous leaves. So the flowers is triamerous in case of monocotyledonous plants, and tetramerous and pentamerous in case of the dicotyledonous plants. Now, my dear students, we move to studying the animal kingdom. When we speak about animal kingdom, we find it is a huge kingdom, including many types of animals in different levels of complexity and evolutionary. And all of them are heterotrophic. They could be parasites or free living, and we are going to study them in details. They are multicellular eukaryotic organisms. They have the ability to move, and which is the most significant characteristic in animal kingdom. so the animals move and transport from one place to another. They have the ability to respond rapidly to external or even internal stimuli. External stimuli in the surrounding environment or internal stimuli inside their bodies. Their majority, the majority of them reproduce sexually. Animal kingdom includes 9 phyla. The first phylum is called Porifera, and the most important example of this phylum is sponge. So the sponges are simple, structured organisms. They are immobile, that means they don't move, they don't have locomotory organs, and they are aquatic animals, live in marine water, seas or oceans. They live attached to rocks, as we said, because they don't have locomotory organs or moving organs in marine water. Their bodies have various shapes where it may be tubular or vase-shaped body. And the body has many pores and canals. And this is a picture of the sponges. It's very simple in the structure. As you see here. There is an opening at its top called osculum. So these openings are called osculum. They live individually, solitary, or in colonies, and the bodies are asymmetrical. A symmetrical body, that means when we divide the body into 2 vertical halves, we don't find the 2 halves are similar. Here's another picture for the sponge. The body wall is supported with a skeleton of spicules or fibers or both. Most sponges are hermaphrodite. So we can find the male and female parts representing organs are present in the same tissue. They reproduce sexually by gametes and asexually by budding and regeneration. Regeneration means when we cut a part of the sponge, it grows to replace the lost part. The second phylum is called Cnidaria. Sometimes we pronounce it Cnidaria, but it's Cnidaria. Aquatic marine animals, and they live individually or in colonies. They have no head, and the mouth is surrounded by appendages, or we call them tentacles. Here is an example of this phylum, the hydra, and as you see, the mouth opening at the top of the organism, and there are some tentacles surrounding it. The most important characteristic in this phylum is the presence of the stinging cells in the tentacles. And these stinging cells are used to catch the prey or to defend against the enemies. Here are some examples of Cnidaria, Hydra, Aurelia, which we call the jellyfish, sea anemones, or sometimes some of them are like the Hydra. The third phylum here, including the simplest type of the worms. And these types of worms are flattened, and we call them platyhelminthes. Platyhelminthes or flatworms. So the flatworms here are many, and we have some examples here, as you see in the picture. The tapeworm, planaria, fasciola, and bilharzia. All of these types are very famous to indicate the platyhelminthes or the flatworms. Most of them are parasites, so they don't need to have body systems like digestive system. It's just containing the alimentary canal through which the food passes, food from the host, because they are parasites, so they parasitize on man or animals to suck the blood containing food, or live in different parts of the body and feed on this host. So they don't need locomotory organs or body systems, just alimentary canal to suck the food. Most of them are hermaphrodite, except the bilharzia, and the bilharzia has male and female worms which stay embracing each other, like as you see in this picture. The next phylum is called nematoda, or roundworms. The body here is round, not flattened like the tapeworm, for example. So it is round or cylindrical in shape. The body is bilaterally symmetrical, and the body is unsegmented. It's not segmented or not composed of parts. So it's just one part, cylindrical in shape, and bilaterally symmetrical. It consists of 3 layers, the outer layer and the inner one, and one in between. The size are ranging from microscopic to 1 meter. So the size ranges from very few millimeters or parts of the millimeter and up to 1 meter. They have alimentary canal with 2 openings, the mouth and the anus. As you see in this picture, there is an example of cylindrical worm or round worms that is Ascaris, and as you see, there is male and female, so they are unisexual, and they are parasites. So most of them are parasites, and few are free living. Some are free living and in water, and the others are parasite that parasitize on humans, animals, and plants. The examples are Ascaris and Flaria. Ascaris and Flaria. The third type of worms is called Annelida, or ringworms. Here the body is composed of rings attached by the outer skin. So this is called ringworms. The majority are free living, not like the previous worms. They are free living, most of them. They live in sea or fresh water or moist, muddy soil, like the earthworm. We have 2 examples here, the earthworm and the medical leech. The earthworm, for example, is the model of this phylum, and it is composed of rings, as we said. They live inside the grooves that it makes inside the moist soil. Few are external parasites, like the medical leech. When we say that the worm is free living, that means it needs body systems and body organs to live freely. So the sensory organs are there, some of the eyes, sort of eyes or tentacles to guess its way, searching for food or for shelter, and it moves peristalsis movement by peristalsis movement, And the body systems are there. The digestive system, of course, because it feeds on organic materials in the soil. So there is a digestive system, circulatory system, and of course excretory system beside the reproductive system. And the sexes here are separate. That means they are unisexual worms. The fifth phylum, as we're studying, is a ringworm, and the body is divided into rings or segments, and many of them have spine-like buried in the skin and help them to move. Some of them are unisexual, and the few are hermaphrodite. Now, my dear students, we can continue next time studying the widespread phylum, very important phylum, which is the arthropoda. And the arthropoda includes many classes like Insecta, like Arachnida, like Myriapoda, and many classes. And it includes the organisms that have jointed legs. So the arthropoda phylum includes the jointed legs creatures or animals that live in different environments. And the body is divided into parts, as you see. The body is divided into parts, and next time, inshallah, we are going to study them, these classes and organisms in details. Until we meet again, let's say goodbye.